Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing.
Salute, salute. What's up, everybody? Back at it. Frank Bay in the building, for some real live boxing talk. We got a fight weekend coming up. Matias, right? Matias is in the building. He'll be fighting Dalton Smith on pay-per-view, right? What else? There's a couple other fights going on. So, yeah, man, boxing's getting started. It's January. Hope you had a good new year, right? That is getting off to a good start. I hope it's going well for you. If not, if it's going bad, it can only get better. You know what I'm saying? Life gets better, man. That's Virgil Ortiz, right? Salute J-Rock's in the building. Virgil Ortiz handling business, supposedly, allegedly, right? Virgil's been in the news. There's been a lot of news and notes and rumors that they've been talking. The Rick Merrigan, Virgil Ortiz's manager, has been posting about the fight being made and not being made. There's a lot of back and forth. So, it just gets interesting, man. This is the boxing world. Are you guys watching the fight this weekend? Again, it is on pay-per-view. Subriel Matias did pop dirty. He popped for Osterine. The same thing that Ryan Garcia. If you remember, Ryan Garcia had popped for Osterine. Okay. But they cleared Subriel. Subriel was cleared. I think I mentioned this in earlier streams. Hit the like, guys. Lord Chilaquiles. Boxing will never leave you. Right? I mentioned this. I said, when Ryan Garcia popped dirty for Osterine, nobody really wanted evidence or proof. Right? He popped. If it was a millionth, a billionth of a trillionth of a gram, it didn't matter. It was in his system. He was guilty. Guilty. That's what they said. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered at all. Subriel Matias popped, and they didn't say if they were going to cancel the fight. There was a lot of back and forth. He said it seemed like he was being railroaded. People suspected that he was sabotaged because the fight wasn't doing well. It's in New York. People are posting on Twitter and everything that it's not selling. It's also on pay-per-view. People are saying that the fire sticks are out. Salute, Frankie. Thank you. The one, Don. Appreciate it. So there was a lot of back and forth, and then eventually, they said the fight was on. They said that Subriel Matias had, I want to say 0.08 in his system. That's what they said that he had popped for. Now I believe Ryan was 0.6. They said that the narrative, I think it was Dan Ralph reported that Ryan Garcia had was 60 times the legal limit. Now that's what he said. And people went with it. But the news, the notes, is that it was actually in the billionths of a gram. Same with Subriel Matias. But somehow Subriel Matias gets a pass. I guess there's a legal threshold. There is a legal threshold for PEDs. And the reason is because of contamination. There's been plenty of cases of people popping and, they have due process. It seems like Ryan Garcia was given none of these, I mentioned that Alicia Baumgartner, who just fought on Netflix under the fake Paul fight, right? She had popped dirty. And, you know, it's what I said before, if in lives before, is that people have selective outrage. It's just interesting that who the media will persecute and who they will let go. Salute Apollos. You know, that's the interesting thing about the boxing world, right? You know, Canelo Alvarez can never live down his PED use, you know? That's that. When you listen to boxing talk, and if you mention Canelo Alvarez, he was persecuted, right? He's Canelo Alvaroids, you know, Canelo, you know, all the nicknames. It's pretty funny, you know? But he'll forever be a drug cheat in everybody's eyes, you know? He'll always be Canelo and Canelo Alvaroids. But you know, he was actually exonerated, right, for clenbuterol, because there have been plenty of cases where they do use the meat in Mexico with clenbuterol, and he also provided a hair follicle sample, and he was exonerated. You know, he was suspended, but he was exonerated, which means like, you know, basically being pardoned, right? Like, well, not even, it's even more than pardon. It means like you were found guilty, but then they have another process, and they basically wipe the slate clean. It never really happened. You know, because these things take a long time. But in the meantime, you have to sit. Right? So now people are saying that boxing has a drug problem, that, you know, that boxing, everybody's cheating in boxing. And what I always say is that if you're not cheating, you're not trying. You know, is she really enjoying that? I would imagine so. I don't know who wouldn't. It looks like whoever that is, they said it was Virgil Ortiz is going to town. Right? You know, but that's what it is, man. That's what it is. You know, it's just selective outrage. Now, you know, some people feel that Subriel Matias is a drug cheat. But if the New York Commission said it's okay, then I don't understand why he'd be persecuted. But it's just interesting to show, you know, people will always, you know, they'll hate Ryan Garcia, call him a drug cheat, etc. Canelo Alvaroids, you know, the usual suspects, right? But when it comes to fighters like Roy Jones Jr., Evander Holyfield, Shane Mosley, people that did pop dirty, 7 Mexicans pop dirty under Eddie, I think that's not true. I mean, people say those things, but that doesn't, you know, what people say doesn't make it true. I don't know why people just assume that that's true. You know, Ryan Garcia wasn't with Eddie Reynoso when he popped. I don't know why people say that. It's just not true. That didn't happen. When Ryan Garcia popped, he was not with Eddie Reynoso. You know, but it is what it is. You know, people will run with whatever story that they want, and you know, they won't think twice about it, which is fine. You know, I don't expect people to examine every little, you know, look under every little rock and everything. You know, people just want what's easy. You know, they don't want to look too hard. They don't want to look too long. And I get that. You know, Jaime Munguia, you know, he's coming back after a layoff. You know, speaking of the people who pop dirty, you know, it's you know, they're still hailed to this day. There it is. Shane Mosley, Roy Jones fought on the same card. You know, people idolize Shane Mosley, Roy Jones Jr., Evander Holyfield. But, I mean, they were just as dirty as anybody else. But, you know, nobody wants to say it. They just want to idolize who they want to idolize. You know, they go after who they want to go after. But if it's a little hottie like Alicia Bumgarner, then it's okay. You know, PED use, who cares? You know, and that's fine. You know, some people they think that it's okay. You know, some people don't mind the PEDs in the sport. You know, the assumption is that everybody is using, right? That at the end of the day, that everybody in the sport is trying to get an edge, right? That's just something that we have to accept, right? That at the highest levels of boxing, it only makes sense to spend your money and try to get an edge, right? Now the whole PED thing, it's not cheap. These strength and conditioning coaches, all the supplements and the cycles and all the science that goes into it. I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. If you're a young up and coming fighter and you're not really with the big promoter or anything, you're not going to have money to just be spending on cycles and PEDs. These things are not cheap. Go try to get medicine anywhere you go. You're spending hundreds of dollars on just medication, for anything that you have. If you've ever been to the doctors, you have insurance, but, it's still not cheap. That's constantly a topic of discussion in America, healthcare, right? So imagine something like black market PEDs. So we're talking tens and tens of thousands of dollars to have the best stuff to perform at the highest level. You know what I mean? So not everybody can do it. But once you hit a certain threshold, if you start making $100,000, $200,000, you start hitting the $500,000 mark, and then you start making the millions, it becomes a little more tempting. You can afford the best of the best. You can afford chefs, track and field coaches, strength and conditioning. You can afford the best of the best. And guess what? It only gets better. More money, more problems. Anybody who's been busted in the sport, they're at the top of the sport. They make millions and millions of dollars. But I want to know what you guys think. I mean, is Subriel Matias a dirty fighter? People mentioned that he unalived somebody before. That's crazy, right? He unalived a fighter. People know that. And obviously people make the assumption that, he was dirty then. Once you pop dirty, you're pretty much scarred for life, right? You're pretty much never going to get the benefit of the doubt. I think that's what it comes to. Like I said, with Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, it'll be a cloud over their head. It's always going to be there. But with other fighters, Artie Puello, the man that Matias beat, he popped dirty. And nobody cared. Nobody batted an eye. And he got a title out of it. How do you feel about PEDs? Is everybody using that? For the most part, it's a clean sport. But sometimes people need an edge. Do you feel that Matias is a dirty fighter? But it's never gonna end. I think when you have $1 million fights, there's a lot on the line. Loser goes home. You lose, and you're gonna lose paydays. I think it's too tempting. I think it's too tempting to not want to use, right? So here it is. Here's what I was looking for. This is Dan Canobio saying PEDs will remain in boxing meat because no one really cares. What do you guys think? Is that true? Does nobody really care about PEDs in boxing? Let's see what he has to say.
Don't do anything about PEDs in 2026.
Nope.
Harsher bans.
Nope. You know why? Because powers that be don't care. They want the best fights possible. They want racehorses who can run faster than any horse they could before them.
When you say powers that be, is that promoters? Is that the organizations?
All of the above, dude. Nobody cares.
The
they don't really care.
Will anyone do?
He says that nobody cares. That's his summation. I would have to agree. I've said this before. That's why I said selective outrage. It's selective outrage who they'll choose to go after. Right, this fight with Subriel Matias is going to go forward. But imagine if it was Virgil Ortiz. If it was Virgil Ortiz who had popped dirty. Do you think the people would be so lax? Do you think that they would be okay with it? Matias not on roids. He's getting outboxed. Thank you, Chitlin and Technique. Hit the like, guys. Hit the like. Well, he did get outboxed by Liam Pato, right? He did get outboxed by Liam Pato. So, yeah, he at one point Matias was the boogeyman. Do you guys remember when everybody thought that Subriel Matias was the boogeyman, that everybody was avoiding him? That's the interesting thing, right? Is that in boxing, there's always a boogeyman. Somehow, some way, there's always this new boogeyman, right? But let's see what they had to say.
Will anyone do anything about PEDs in 2026?
Nope.
Harsher bans?
Nope. You know why? Because powers that be don't care. They want the best fights possible. They want racehorses who can run faster than any horse they could before them.
When you say powers that be, is that promoters? Is that the organizations?
All of the above, dude. Nobody cares. They don't really care. No one cares about fighter safety. No one cares. They care about the product. They care about the fans tuning in. They want to see the best fights possible. They want to see guys fighting to the death for 12 rounds. This is a gladiator sport. Do you think they care what we do after our careers? No. We don't get retirement. We don't get health insurance. We don't get any of that. They don't care about the health of the fighters. So are they going to do anything about PEDs? No, absolutely not.
Will anyone do anything about PEDs in 2026?
Nope.
Harsher bans?
Nope.
So he's saying they don't care. They don't care. Technique says that's because he unalived the dude. Well, that's the question too. Is that especially if Matias unalived the dude, right? It's like, man, he was always on the PEDs, right? But this guy was a boogeyman at one point in time. He was the new boogeyman is that Muratalia guy who's fighting Josh Kelly. But Matias was the boogeyman. Everybody at 140 was shook of this guy. He's a punching machine. He just didn't stop. He comes and he pulverizes people and he doesn't stop punching. I mean, he's must-see TV, And now this. But now he's fighting. So he pops dirty and he's still fighting. That's what it is. Selective outrage. Nobody cares. I said it's the illusion of a clean sport. With things like snack and drug testing, VADA, WADA, all these synonyms, right? All these, acronyms. It gives us the impression that it's a clean sport, right? You'll hear fighters saying, oh, I signed up for VADA. Ryan Garcia had passed all his tests. The only test he failed was the last one. And it was the billionth of a gram. But that's all they needed. There wasn't really a due process. He wasn't given the benefit of the doubt like Subriel Matias and able to prove that there was contamination. But again, it's neither here or there. There's people that feel that you should have nothing in your system. That any trace, anything means you're dirty. Dirty's dirty. Like you can't get a little bit pregnant. But I don't think that's a fair assessment when we look at the nature of at the top of the sport, these top tier athletes, they're taking a lot of stuff. Legal, illegal. Let's just say they're taking legal things, right? It's not cheap. There's a lot of stuff that they need, man. Even if you're just a regular Joe and you want to hit the gym, you're going to need supplements and the more the better. But you need to be careful. You can't just throw anything in your body. You have to know what the effects are. Hopefully you're smart. But the higher you go, if you get into weightlifting or athletics, you know that you need things to improve your performance. You know, your recovery, your performance. You know, it's tough to be an athlete and go time after time, right? You need a little extra. You need a little extra something. But the true temptation lies in that if what the other guy is doing. If the other guy is using and you're not, you're going to lose. Now, there have been cases where fighters have taken PEDs, but they still lost. You know, one case I remember is Fernando Vargas. He popped dirty after losing to Oscar De La Hoya. So it's not like it hasn't happened. So, you know, I just think the temptation is too great. If it's between getting a $10 million fight and a $500,000 fight, and you hear rumors that the other guy is cheating, what are you gonna do? If it was me and it was my career and people told me, hey, this other guy, he's working with so and so and he has the best stuff, that then I probably need to make some phone calls. You know, I need to reach in my purse and get whatever it is that I need to compete. You know, the margins of victory at the highest levels is paper thin. You know, it's razor thin. You look at a matchup like Benavidez and Zurdo Ramirez. You know, I don't think the skill gap is too wide. You know, I think it's a 50-50 fight. Or let's just say Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, right? People think it's a 50-50 fight. A lot of people lean Jaron Ennis, but for the most part, it's a 50-50 fight, right? And you're one of the guys, and you look across, and you see this guy's ripped to shreds. You know, they're showing pictures of Ryan Garcia ripped to shreds, and they're saying, oh, he's on steroids. You know, that's the natural assumption, right? Especially knowing what we know. And then you look at Virgil Ortiz. He's a big boy. He's had issues, you know, rhabdomyolysis. And there were fighters that were making allegations that was from PED use. That the reason that happened to Virgil, you know, he actually fainted. He could have died. He fainted at the scale, like he literally collapsed. And you know, fighters later said that, oh, you know, you get that from PEDs. And that's what most people are going to assume, right? That's the first thing that people are going to reach for. Especially at the highest level of boxing, right? Like I said, the middle tier guys and not so much, right? We don't really they could, but part of the PED use is not getting caught. You know, you could use them, but if you're using at a lesser extent with not a professional, a doctor, somebody that works with other athletes that help beat the system, then the chances of you getting caught are higher. And that takes money. That takes a lot of money. Guys making $20,000, $30,000 a fight, they don't have a 10 grand laying around just to go get some juice. You know, they don't have it. So, you know, with the Subriel Matias thing, man, in boxing, it's guilty until proven innocent. You're just guilty and you're a drug cheat and you really can never clear your name. You know, what happened? Bulba's boxing? I don't know, man. No idea. He was here today, gone tomorrow. That's kind of how this boxing shit goes, you know? People are here today, gone tomorrow. It's not easy. You know, I noticed a lot of people, they make I would say 50%, whether it's boxing Twitter or boxing YouTube, you know, they make their shows or channels or content usually about one fighter. Whether if it's Snackford, Spence, Stank Davis, Shakira, Canelo, you know, a lot of these guys tend to focus on one fighter or maybe 1 or 2 fighters, and they get a lot of traction and steam that way. You know, you're probably more at a disadvantage if you talk about the entire sport. You know, what you ideally need to do is find people's favorite fighter and then just do daily stories or shows about that fighter, and then you build a following that way, and then you can kind of expand into other sectors of boxing. But for the most part, man, you're kind of traveling a roast-led traveled if you talk about the entire sport. You know what I'm saying? Like this weekend, you know, it's hard to do boxing stuff because even this fight, it's not a big fight, and it's on pay-per-view. So how much content, how much push are you really gonna get talking about, you know, Subriel Matias and Dalton Smith? I dropped the link if anybody wants. Hit the like. But yeah, for the most part, you know, we don't really have anything big until the end of the month. So you kind of got to just, you know, keep talking about whatever you can talk about, you know. But yeah, man. And it sucks that this is pay-per-view. I think if it was not pay-per-view, I think if it was mainstream, you know, we could get a lot more traction out of this. I think people would be a lot more excited. But it's hard, man. It's hard. You know, you got to find things to talk about. You got to find stories to add, you know, like the whole Anthony Joshua thing. I didn't really feel that it was something that I wanted to talk about. But, you know, that's the boxing news, you know. People like the drama. You know, people were talking about Clarissa Shields and whatnot. Wasn't really my cup of tea. I didn't want to talk about Clarissa Shields. I don't know why I would talk about Clarissa Shields for any reason. And I think she even has a fight coming up, you know. Clarissa Shields versus Francine Deshwa, some bullshit like that. You know, and I just go, who cares? Do you guys care about Clarissa Shields? I, for one, don't. So this is what we have. We have, there's also some other fights. Ajit Kabayel versus Keniba, 17-0. That will be on the Zone in the morning. Ajit Kabayel, you know, he's knocked some top contenders off. They're saying he's a contender, but he's just not a name. He can't really get the big fight. You know, and he's fighting in some obscure place. I don't know, in his hometown. So the big fight. So this is the pay-per-view undercard. Cintron versus Sandoval at bantamweight. Rodriguez versus Diaz at bantamweight. Bravo Campa, that guy's been around. Super lightweight. Colon Guevara at featherweight. So it's a lot of smaller weight class fights. Kabayel in Germany. Not going to get anything there. Don't know the names there. And then I guess there's nothing till next week. I thought Jermaine Franklin was fighting, but I guess that's Sanchez Rubio, Muratalia Cruz. I thought Itai Amo was fighting. I'm not sure when he's fighting. Gucci Flores, Chavez, Rocha Kiriel. So, you know, as far as the fights, it's tough to find a lot of things to really talk about. You know, until then, you know, for the most part, we're just talking about Twitter wars between Ennis and Ortiz. And then we got Ryan Garcia news. People are talking about, I guess, Ryan's doing these quick kick streams. He did a lie detector test. People got a little bit excited about that. You know, I guess when they asked him if he cheated with the lie detector test, he said no. You know, so I guess that makes him not guilty. But yeah, man, it's just mostly the rumor mill, the rumors. Ryan Garcia, that somebody also posted that his wife left him and she's dating other people and he likes it. So now they think he's a cuck. Again, totally nothing boxing related. Nothing boxing related at all, right? But that's pretty much what we have to go on, man, is social media. You know, we look around, we talk about the business, of boxing, you know, the news and notes and rumors. You know what people are. Tyson Fury is talking about a return. How do you feel about Tyson Fury and Wardley? You know, hit the like. I dropped the link. Tyson Fury is coming back. Does anybody care? It's hard to believe Tyson Fury. You know, we really don't know what to ever believe with him. You know, he was retired, right? He was retired maybe a year. I forgot when he fought Alexander Usyk. He retired. They show him in the streets drunk, you know, things like that. Now he's back. They showed training clips. You know, it was supposed to be Anthony Joshua. Now there was big rumors. People were doing a lot of clickbait saying, and Joshua announces retirement, and it was just clickbait. I don't know. And then, you know, Eddie Hearn said that they haven't made any decisions yet. So I don't know where people thought that was accurate or true. You know, that Anthony Joshua retired. But, you know, people will say and do anything, right? To get the clicks and views and likes. But, you know, this is a thing with the new age boxing. You know, it's mostly rumors. Mostly everything in boxing now is just rumors. Not a lot of meat on the potato when it comes to the fights. You know, as far as fights being made, we still don't know what Top Rank is doing. You know, Zuffa Boxing is making noise. They actually have shows. They have boxing coming up. But it's not going to be any big names. So people aren't getting too excited about it. You know, it'll be interesting to see the numbers and views. You know, if it does well. Will you guys be watching Zuffa Boxing? It'll be hard to say, you know, who's really going to tune in. You know, right now it's the football playoffs and the college football playoffs. So they will be dominating the headlines and all those things. But for the most part, you know, it's hard to say what people will be clamoring for. You know, we got Raymond Murtaya versus Andy Cruz, which is a hell of a fight. I think skill for skill, pound for pound, that's probably the best fight. That's probably the best fight on the menu. But you know what? It's really not going to get a lot of noise. You know, Andy Cruz has, you know, under 10 fights. Murtaya, he's just a young champion. You know, he just became a champion. You know, Murtaya just became a champion, and he's already in the fight of his life. You know, but hey, man, once you become a champion, you know, there's no more protection. But again, it's not going to get a lot of steam. It's not getting all the noise that people will expect. You know, most people are talking about Teofimo and Shakir Twitterson. You know, they already announced Inui and Nakatani. You know, that's pretty much what they've have on the menu. They're already kind of announcing that. They already made weight, so Subriel, Matias, and Dalton Smith make weight. Dalton Smith has the UK behind him. Who wins this fight? Does Subriel Matias just steamroll this UK guy? What do you guys think? Does Dalton Smith have a fighting chance? You know, most people still think that it's UK bums, you know? It's UK bums. That's what people call them to this day. To this day. Zuffa Boxing, grand opening. You know, they're here. They're ready. What do you guys think? Dana White? But again, it's not going to be any names that you recognize. You know, they just don't. They have some recognizable names, but not the big names. You know, in boxing, that there's like an elite class and there's everybody else, and that's just how it is. You know, nobody really pays attention to the minor league, so to speak. You know, you used to have HBO boxing, and then you had like ESPN fights. You know, and they were kind of I wouldn't say minor leagues, but the proving grounds. You know, the lesser fights, how you built your name is on those type of platforms, and then you graduated to the big stage, which would have been, you know, HBO or Showtime. But you know, even HBO and Showtime had their Showtime had their Pro Box. They had, it was Showtime something. There was a smaller shows, right? Less money, but it was for guys who hadn't built a name yet, and that's where they made their name. And then you had HBO After Dark, which was another type of platform where it was lesser known guys, and they built the name there. So that's what it looks like Zuffa's trying to do, just like Pro Box, right? It's not the big names, the names that you know, but it's guys that are coming to fight and put on a good show. And that's what they're going to do. But, you know, what's really going to matter is who are you going to tune in? Will people tune in, and will they care? Can you make people care if you don't have the big names? Or are people casuals and only root for the big names? You know, people talk about they love boxing, but most people are casuals, you know? And I get it. You know, most people are casual. They know the big names, and that's about as far as they go. So this is in the news also. This is what I mean. Like, Lindolfo, the IBF called Richards Hitchens. The fight is mandatory. Lindolfo next, and other option is Duarte. So that could actually be a good fight. I'd rather see Lindolfo. You know, Duarte has got his shot. He was actually beat by Ryan Garcia. Lindolfo was kind of lackluster in his last fight. He's had some lackluster performances. You know, Richards Hitchinson is supposed to be levels above. You know, he's supposed to be in the upper echelon of class. But, you know, people say he's got a back foot bitch style, is boring. In other words, Richard. And, you know, I think he is. You know, he doesn't fight with any passion. I thought Lemos beat his ass. I thought Gustavo Lemos put a beating on him. But he got the benefit of the doubt. Then he fights George Cambozo for some reason. And that was a lackluster fight. You know, he was supposed to fight on this card, the Turkey Ring 6 card. And he was supposed to fight Jermaine Ortiz. And that fight fell through. And then now Keisha Davis is fighting him. So, you know, how do you guys feel about that fight? You know, I guess Keisha Davis is in the headlines. He's looked like he's tweaking. I don't know, man. The guy's acting really strange. He really looks like he's tweaking out there. You know, they're looking shredded. Him and Shakir Twitterson are looking pretty big and shredded out there. And yeah, like I said, nothing suspicious at all. If I can find the pictures, you know, I will show you. But yeah, man, you know, I guess people are just looking forward to the big fight. Like I said, Dalton Smith and Subriel Matias on pay-per-view, and that undercard looks very meh. It's not even mid. It's thumbs down. Boo. And I guess Robert Garcia is making noise. He says Bam wants the winner of Inui and Nakatani.
Inui, we're gonna get the winner. I'm gonna get the winner. So you're
close.
So that's pretty big. Robert is putting it out there that Bam Rodriguez will get the winner. So hopefully Nakatani and Inui beat the shit out of each other. And that would help Bam, right? That's what you would hope if you're Bam Rodriguez, that they beat the shit out of each other. That would help. But if Inui steamrolls him, you know, because nobody's giving Nakatani a chance. But if Inui steamrolls him, then, you know, it's gonna be tough for Bam. He'll be a underdog, maybe a heavy underdog. Hit the like. I dropped the link. But yeah, man. What else we got? We got I'm trying to find Keisha Davis, Xander Zayas, and he's over here, looking like a 168 pounder, big guy, man, big for the weight division, But what do you guys think about that? I think this will be the best fight. I think because Xander has the style, the back foot style. Barasu's a come forward kind of guy. And I think they should make for a good fight. Xander, was getting clipped a little bit versus Garcia. But, I think that has the potential to be the fight of the month. The guy looks like a lightweight in there. That is insane, man, that he can cut down to 154. They say Virgil cuts down. But that's nuts. Yeah, nothing suspicious at all. Hard work and dedication is all it takes, man. But you know what, man? I mean, look, man, people could throw their allegations. I think we all just assume it to be true. But I think we can also believe that no, there's fighters that are clean. There are clean fighters out there. I'm sure they're fighters that do it the right way, the natural way. Let's hope Xander's one of them. I mean, nobody's brought up any allegations, and he can't punch, so maybe that helps his case, right? I guess if you don't got knockouts, then you're not. Then nobody suspects it, right? People suspect the power punchers, right? The guys that getting all the knockouts. That's what people suspect. So I get that part. But yeah, I think that's and it's on the same night, right? Teofimo Lopez and Shakir's Twitter sin. That's on the same night as Xander Zayas and Alex Barasu. Same night. So, they'll be competing. Hopefully the main event is not on the same night, but people buy the pay-per-view. That's what they're going to watch. And we don't even know, it's not going to be on ESPN. We don't know where Top Rank is going to show the fight. And it's only a couple days, a couple weeks away. January 31st at the end of the month. So, but it's a good fight. These are good fights. Like I said, Murataliev and Cruz. And I think in the morning, Josh Kelly is fighting Muratayev and Andy Cruz. And then this week, and then Moses Saitama, I forget, versus Franklin. Saitama should get a knockout. But, yeah, man, it looks like, the Matias noise, it looks like people are not going to buy the fight. That it won't be a sold out crowd. Hopefully it's a decent crowd. That would suck that if there's nobody there. That would kind of suck. And then, the pay-per-view will probably obviously tank. But that should not be a pay-per-view fight. I think a lot more fan excitement would be if we knew we could watch it. I think that would have helped the cause and you get a lot more fan interest in this. You know what I mean? But other than that, man, it's just the news and rumors. Like I said, Ryan Garcia. And we still don't have a fight announcement date for that. We don't have a fight announcement date for Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. But there's actually rumors that Stanky Davis and Manny Pacquiao will be getting it on. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about the rumors? Is that something that interests people? Could you imagine Stank Davis and Manny Pacquiao? That would literally be insane. I think that I've spoken about it before. I think that could happen, man. I think you do what you do to bring the fans. I think there would be a high level of fan interest in Stank Davis and Manny Pacquiao because Manny Pacquiao was supposed to fight Rolly Romero, and then that fell through. What? Oh shit! Yeah, you know what, man? I've been seeing that on the news everywhere, and people are upset, and it's pretty much still in the headlines, right? You know what? I don't know, man. I have to watch the videos and I have to think about it. But how about this, man? Without being political, it's tragic. You know, she's a mother of 3, so just that happened to anybody. She did try to run up the agent, though. Yeah, I mean, there's more angles. I was actually at the gym, and they were, that's all that they're showing at the gym and all that. But at the end of the day, man, it's hard to say definitively. We got to wait till the evidence and there'll be more on it, but just that it probably shouldn't have happened. It was tragic, and people's lives are ruined and, ruined. Even the guy, if you're a shooter, it's ruined. Your life is ruined. Do I think Zayas wins easily? You know how I feel about this fight? I felt like his fight with Garcia, was a layup. He won that pretty handily, easily. It was a layup. Top Rank knows how to move their fighters. They know how to get their fighters in position. And the Abasu guy, I think Zayas should win pretty handily if he's what they say he is. But salute to Top Rank, man, get in this fight, because I think a lot of guys would have wanted Barasu, and would have beat him, like Ennis or Ortiz. You give Castro a chance versus Carrington, I think he wins, but might get robbed. Yeah, that's what people are saying. I think for Carrington, they feel it's a layup. They got him a beatable opponent. But we've seen Castro give Fulton hell. So, but it's a stretch, man. It's a stretch. I could see that happening. Because I'm not high on Poo-Poo Carrington anyway. I'm not high on him. I thought that one guy, Sagawa, put a beating on him, or, made him look bad. I thought it should have been a draw. And then he had like a lackluster fight on Netflix. And then I couldn't tell you what happened. Shit. Carrington still owes. Exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Castro was robbed against Fulton. Yeah, you know what? I mean, that was going to happen though, right? Salute Snapper, salute Chile. Yeah, hit the like, guys. Lord Chilaquiles. But the thing about it is that they're going to give it to Carrington. He's the heavy favorite. It's not like they're going to let Castro win. Castro would need a decisive knockdown or something. He'll need to put a beating on him just to get a draw. But it's not like they're going to give Castro any... see, this is the thing with the boxing shit, right? It's just like with Teo Shakur. Teo will need a knockdown or two because who they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to when we talk about boxing. But that's been boxing through and through since it was invented. The A-side fighter, the favorite, is gonna get the benefit of the doubt if the rounds are close. We've seen it with Hanley and Lomachenko. Hit the like, I dropped the link. But traditionally, that's just how boxing works, But I would like to see an upset or two. I would like to see, I don't really care for Jermaine, but I would like to see him upset Keisha Davis. I would like to see Castro upset shit Carrington. I want to see that, man. I think it's good for the sport because we know, man, when these guys, they get these padded records, they become divas and they don't want to fight nobody. We're seeing that with Hitchison. As long as these guys, Shakir, and Hitchison have these O's, then they can kind of dictate. We just seen Stank Davis get the benefit of the doubt, right? With the draw. It wasn't a loss, it was a draw. So at least he doesn't have a loss. They gave Davina Henke his L back. Ryan has losses. Canelo has losses. Zayas is undefeated. So as long as these guys can stay undefeated, then they have more leverage and more money, but also with the fans, right? Oh, he never lost. But with the loss comes humbleness and they don't have the advantages anymore. But again, when have we seen the upset special? You really don't see it. Unless it's another robbery like Lubin robbing Jesus Ramos, you know? So in that case, you know, that's when the robbery happens. Or the underdog wins, right? When they're trying to pull some shenanigans. But for the most part, Carrington, you know, is going to get the benefit of the doubt. Just like Teofimo is not going to get the benefit of the doubt in the close rounds. And that's what sucks. So a 115, 113, even though it was close, you know, it could be 118, 110 because, the fighters don't get the benefit of the doubt. So that's kind of how boxing has always been and how it'll always be. In the Subriel Matias Dalton Smith fight, you know, I don't know if Subriel Matias is that much of an ace side that he'll just win close no matter what. You know, I think Dalton Smith has a fighting chance. So, but for the most part, man, you know, we rarely see upsets in that fashion. You know, the other guy has to win convincingly, just like we just seen with Nakatani and Hernandez, right? You know, some judges have it close, and then one judge had it like 118, 110, which is insane, right? So, you know, the A sides get the benefit of the doubt. And I think the announcers and the judges, they know that going in. You know, people already have their scorecards filled out 9 out of 10 times. And you know who's the worst at it? The fans. You hear these shows, you hear Twitter, you hear, you know, YouTube shows or whoever you listen to, right? And they have their favorite fighters. And if you're bigging up Xander Zayas and, oh, he's generational, he's next, he beats Fandora, he beats Virgil, he beats everybody, then how can you trust those guys' scorecards? You know, they're already going for a certain guy. You hear these guys, Gerard Ennis is the best. Well, then they already had their scorecards filled out. You know, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm going for Virgil or I go for Fandora or whoever, right? But I try to think that I don't have my scorecard filled out and that I have it the right way. Just like Lamont Roach and Pitbull. I had Pitbull winning by a point because I didn't have my scorecard filled out. I gave the rounds to Roach that I thought he won. I mean, there's a part of me that could have gave the whole fight to Pitbull, you know? And especially the close rounds. I just gave it to Pitbull, right? But I try to think like, nah, I could see people giving it to Roach and I gave him the rounds. So I don't score every fight, but fights like that where I know it's probably going to be controversy and there could be some shenanigans and there's going to be some arguments, then I will score. So I will score Xander Zayas and Barroso. I will score Shit Carrington and Castro. I will score that. You know, definitely, I tell you the fight to definitely score. And it'll be interesting to score is Murataya and Cruz. That is going to be such a close fight because they're both kind of similar counter punchers and patient. You know, they're not gonna go to war toe to toe right off the back, and then one guy could pull back. Murataya is very cautious. I wouldn't say cautious, but he's very calculated. You know, and that's what's crazy is that one segment of boxing fans will say, "Oh, that's the sweet science. He had ring IQ, man," and others will say, "Oh no, he don't want to throw. He don't want to let his hands go." So, you know, the fans pick and choose who and when they want to say that about, right? You've seen it in Pitbull, right? When Pitbull was boxing, it was because he was afraid and was confused. Bulbous, salute. Right? But when it's their guy, when it's Lamont Roach that is apprehensive and not doing anything, oh, he got ring IQ, man. He being patient. So it just, you know, you just take it with a grain of sand. You know, you just kind of, look, man, you score fights how you think they should be scored. Me, I give it to the aggressor. I give the round to who I think is landing the harder punches, who's doing the more damage. And I guess this ugly Ninja Turtle looking dude, that is an ugly dude. That's just an ugly person. Look, he's just ugly. He looks like a little Ninja Turtle. Carmel Morton is coming back under Manny Pacquiao Promotions. I don't know what happened to this guy's career. Holy shit. He's like back from the dead. Remember he was promoted by Fraud Mayrunner? And Manny Pacquiao's son got his ass whipped. Lil Mutt Mutt. Yeah, it's just ugly. I'm sorry. Yo, what up, Blaze? The homie. So, yeah, the little ugly Ninja Turtle is fighting on Manny Pacquiao. And Manny Pacquiao's son sucks. I thought he lost. He lost. Yeah, he lost. He got lost to a little white boy. Kicked his ass. Which was nuts. I couldn't believe it. That was crazy. So I'm assuming that all these boxing fans are going to buy the pay-per-view, right? And this guy popped dirty. And nobody cares. There's selective outrage, right? Conor Benn has hit lists of 2026. Ryan Garcia, Davina Hanke, and Shakira Twitterson. He wants a blockbuster. Yeah, well, you know, that's the thing about boxing, right? Is he makes the money. He can pick and choose. And the fact that he popped dirty, didn't fight, I mean, nobody cares, man. But if Ryan Garcia cheated and everybody hates him. So, you know, Canelo Alvarez, everybody hates him. You know, it just goes to show it's Pac-Man, it's Pac-Man, not son, not Pac-Man. Yeah. And he got beat. But I mean, I don't know. I guess, you know, his daddy's paying for the fight. So, you know, he can do what he wants. He has the name. If he didn't have the name Manny Pacquiao, he'd be a nobody. A nobody. That's what's crazy about it, right? I don't know if you guys seen this, but Lewis Crocker, everybody's trying to fight this guy. And he was denied to defend. And now they have him set to fight Liam Pato. But it just goes to show, man, when these guys win a title, they try to milk it. So he was trying to milk it, get a title defense, and they said hell to the no. But again, it's all this boxing shit is selective. I don't care what he's just an ugly human being. But salute, you know, he's a good boxer. Exactly. But he was trying to milk the title, right? Get a title defense, and they told him, fuck no. No wonder they always hating. Yeah, hate us because they ain't us. You know what I'm saying? But the homie D-Block, you know, I don't know if you guys know who he is. You know, he goes, facts. He says Virgil Ortiz will make a big statement if he stops Jaron Ennis. So people are still talking about it. You know, people are still talking about, are they going to fight? Who is fighting? Bro, the more they talk about it, the more it ain't happening. I'm sorry, it's not. Eddie Hearn believes Ryan Garcia, Conor Benn is the biggest fight in boxing. Do you agree? I said this before. It's a big boxing. You know, Ryan's doing all this kick stuff and all these streams. You know, with Chris Sean, whatever the hell she is. She's kind of ugly. Kind of messed up how the IBF made Paro mandatory instead of Magic Salas. Well, Pato has a name and he's white. And it's with Crocker and they can sell it in Crocker's hometown. The shit ain't nice, man. The shit ain't nice. If you got a name, you got more of a chance. You know, that's all people are looking for in boxing. All the other shit is for the birds, homie. Paro or Rhett Crocker. Yeah, Pato, man, depends which one show up. He beat Matias, right? But you never know, man. You never know, man. You never know with these guys. I mean, one day they're up. What do you think Ryan hit Rashawn? Did he hit that stank? I don't think so. I think Ryan has a little bit more. He's a little more selective than that. So maybe though. You think Pato was robbed by Bitchison? Oh yeah, that's who Bitchison beat. Yeah, well we know that's what I was saying earlier. Gets the benefit of the doubt. You know, I guess Tiafimo's looking shredded, looking sharp, but he looks a little small, man. He's gonna be the smaller man that night. You know, And he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Hit the like, hit the link. You know, Ring Magazine says Naoya Inoue and Canelo Alvarez share record for ring title defenses in the 21st century. But, you know, nobody recognizes that. You know, Snackford still says he's not. He was crying. You know, Malik Scott said he's being a crybaby. You know, and he retired. I guess they said he retired because nobody gave him his credit. Did Tio sell out? What do you mean? You're asking me, did he sell out to what? Blazeroni, what did he sell out? You think he's going to lay down against Shakira? Is that what you mean? I'm not sure. Please clarify. Tiafimo's posting, it just is tighten up, Beeb. Get back to work. I guess this is all them young. That's Hitchison, Tiafimo, Buckethead, and I don't know who these other guys are. But yeah, these guys they all hang out together, man. They're all BFFs. You know, they all know each other. You know, they all fought in the same tournaments. You know, just like Ryan Garcia and Davina Hanke. They had been known each other, you know? They fought several times. And Ryan Garcia beat his ass before. So, you know, oh, this is terrible. Dimitri Bivol aiming for a return against Michael Eifert. What? So I guess he gets an easy fight coming back. This is what I'm talking about in boxing, man. You know, this guy, okay, he had the injury, but damn, you got to get right back to it. So I don't know. People say that David Benavidez ducked Dimitri Bivol, but I don't know how he could have ducked him if this guy wants to fight Michael Eifert. Just whack. Just whack, man. Just whack. Tio got a win for the good of boxing. I'm not even trying to see Shikuchi get glazed. Exactly. I've said this. Yes, for the good and health of the sport, man. Please. If there is a big man upstairs, right? If there's a big man upstairs, Tiafimo will knock out Shakir Twitterson. Bivol ducked better Biev. I don't know, man. I mean, I guess he gets the benefit of the doubt, right? But still, you need a tune-up. And then he's going to get injured again and be out another year. Like, come on, what are we doing? So more rumors. You know, this is pretty much what we have now is rumors. Blaze says back injuries are career ending. Got to take it easy. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but once you're already at that level, you got all the belts, man. You got to defend them. I'm just saying, man. Just from a fan perspective. Breaking news: Big Dallas Shark he's saying Earl Spence is coming back because of Instagram post. Could it be against Virgil Ortiz? Holy shit, man. Robert Garcia is discipline the real issue? I guess Robert Garcia is saying that Ryan lacks discipline. I mean, I think that's a Captain Obvious statement, but again, right? That's what people said before he beat Davina's Hanke's ass. Do you remember that he wasn't training, and the whole time he was training, but it was a troll job. So he's posting pictures that he's in shape. So I think he's just messing with everybody. I guess Jaron Ennis is looking sharp. They're saying who is next? Is he getting ready for somebody? People are speculating Matchroom has a date in Vegas. Rumors, right? That's pretty much all we have in boxing right now. The calendar's not out yet. Robert said he expects Bam to fight. Yeah, I seen that. But is it just talk? You know, like I said, I hope Nakatani and Bam beat the shit out of each other. Right? Put some heavy damage on each other, and that'll help Bam. But you know, that's not until May. So if they do, it'll not be to the end of the end of this year. So Bam's got to do something until then. Right? He's got to do something, so it'll be interesting to see what he does until that fight comes to fruition. But another good fight, Ortiz and Keyshawn, which I think will be an ugly fight. I think it'll be an ugly fight, guys. So people are saying that, Ryan ripped in training for Barrios' fight. So either he's not training or he is. People are saying he's not because I guess he's just showing pictures of himself working the mitts with his dad. And then he's like shredded in all these pictures, which people say he's on the juice. But, something that occurred to me, I said, when they were showing those pictures of Devin Haney, they said, oh, that was great. He's looking awesome. Nothing suspicious at all. But Ryan does, oh, he's on the juice. Just kind of shows you how people are, right? Especially in this boxing shit. But, that's just how it is. You got to just accept it. This is what they're saying about Subriel Matias, that the tickets are not moving. All the blue means all the seats available. It's just haters. People just, they love to see, I don't know, they want to see the fight fail. What? They should have never put it on pay-per-view. So now what is Better Biev going to do? He has to wait because Dimitri Bivol gets a tune-up, which is kind of unfair if you ask me. They're supposed to have the trilogy, run it back. Artur Better Biev ran it right back. He didn't get a tune-up. Now Blaze says the injury. I get that. But still, man, you really should be forced to just run it back right away. But there it is, guys. Somebody mentioned Carrington. He's coming back. I hope he gets upset. People said they would like to see the upset. He has done nothing in his career. I think he's almost already 30. They say Virgil's a 30-year-old without a belt. So is Carrington, But I don't know. They say these guys are next. They're the best. But now they got to prove it. You guys are saying Castro's tough. I think it's supposed to be a gimme. But we'll see, man. That's why they fight the fights. I hope we get an upset out of one of these. I think we will. The biggest upset will be Teofimo, though, And maybe Murataya will upset Cruz. Most people are picking Cruz. But I think we've gone long and strong for now. We're just back after the New Year's. Hope you're having a good New Year's, We'll be back. Maybe try to be consistent. Been a minute. But gotta take care of business, But when you come back, I don't know, man. YouTube is crazy like that. Like you're doing okay, and then you come back, and it's slow. But I don't know. We'll see, man. Maybe more as the fights pick up, people are more interested. But right now, we just got the rumors. But I want to thank everybody: John Blaze, Snackford, Chitlin Distributor, Bulbous, Technique, J Rocks, T1. Just a little quick light show coming back. Get the feet wet. Hopefully everybody watch the fight, and there'll be more to come, man. We'll have something to talk about. But, I don't know, man. I'm just going to go with the upset special here because all the drama. Let's go big UK. Right? Now, I had to delete that because I don't know why you would say that. We don't say that thing here, man. Stop saying ignorant things. All right? It's a new year, new you, man. Be better. All right? So thank you, everybody. And we're going to call it a quick show today. Just coming back. But, Frank Bay will be back giving more. Peace.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
No, man, you said something stupid. Don't say it again. Anyway, man, you said that word though. Stop being stupid, man. It's one thing to be funny, it's another thing to be sick. You're a sick person. Get help. Anyway, thank you. Just had to address that.